Have you ever wondered if you're building a business that actually is giving you freedom or if you're just creating yourself another full-time job? Well, that's what we talk about today in this episode with Molly Nutt. She was the previous owner of two different agencies and a business, which she sold all of them. So that's been a big update since we have recorded this episode. In this episode, she was still the owner of Acorn, but she actually has recently sold that, and that's very exciting for her. So you get to hear a little bit about the sale of her Oaks email agency and another company that she sold. So, if you're curious about how you also can make a business that you can hopefully sell one day, or just want to make sure that you are building a sustainable business full of systems and structures, this is the episode for you. I hope you enjoy. Welcome to the Employee to Boss podcast, a podcast for everyone with an entrepreneurial spirit. Every week, I am joined by successful guests in all different industries and stages of business who will share what their experience was like transitioning from employee to boss. This is a resource for you if you're wanting to start a business, go all in on your side hustle, get to the next level, or just hear what it's like taking the leap to becoming your own boss. I'm your host, Haley Hayhurst, the owner of Espresso Podcast Production, a full-service podcast production agency specializing in editing, marketing, and strategy. Let's dive into today's topic. Hey, Molly, welcome to the Employee to Boss podcast. I am so excited to be talking with you today.
Thanks for having me. This is so fun.
I can't believe you haven't been on the show yet.
Honestly, I thought the same thing.
I was thinking and I was like, Molly has not been on here. It's like she needs to get on here. So it's finally happening. You are an amazing business owner. You are a business mentor. You talk about hiring. You talk about email marketing. One thing that I want to talk about is how you incorporate conversations about AI into email marketing. You know, everyone thinks their job is going to go away because of AI. So I want to get into that. But before we talk about all those things, why don't you tell us your journey from employee to boss?
Yeah, I had honestly a pretty smooth journey from employee to boss, and it wasn't intentional necessarily. Similar to a lot of online business owners, I have a COVID business baby. I started it in early COVID, unintentionally though. So I was working in corporate communications at the T-Mobile headquarters. I got a job there as an intern right after college and then stayed on for a couple years afterwards as a communications specialist. And I really liked the job. I learned so much about how to behave professionally in a corporate setting and became a really strong writer. I have a lot of appreciation for the skills that I learned while I was there. When I talk to people that are in college still, they're always like, I don't want to work in corporate. I just want to start my own thing. And I think there's so much value in starting in a corporate career. Kind of like learn how to navigate a professional environment, and you get a lot of skills too. And so I had a great team. I had a great boss, great benefits. Holy cow, working in corporate, there's some serious benefits there. But I just kept thinking, like, is this for me long term? Do I see myself climbing the corporate ladder? The senior director of our department was a woman and she had two younger kids and she was a boss. And I looked up to her a lot, but I was like trying to envision my life of, okay, if I'm in my early 40s and I have kids, like, do I envision myself driving into the T-Mobile headquarters every day and walking into a magenta building? Like, do I see myself doing that? Do I want to climb the corporate ladder? And I was just really struggling with what I wanted long term. And so I started dabbling in freelancing. I started my LLC in 2019, officially at the end of 2019. And I didn't know COVID was going to happen, but it turned out to be a big blessing for the business that I was growing because I was fully in person when I was started working at T-Mobile, clocking in, going in person, which is just like blows my mind. I had a little cubicle. So I started my LLC. I started just like dabbling with freelance here and there. And then COVID happened and the whole company went remote. And so then I didn't have to deal with the commute and I had more time before work started and after work ended to freelance. And so I really started taking it seriously once COVID hit and I was working remotely because I was able to work my 8 to 4 and then shut the T-Mobile laptop and open my business laptop and work 4 to 9. It was over a year that I was doing the 8 to 4 and then 4 to 9, and it was exhausting. And I promised myself that I would officially put in my 2 weeks notice when I replaced my 9 to 5 salary in revenue. You get taxes, you got business expenses. But I said, as soon as I replace my 9 to 5 income with revenue, then I'll put in my 2 weeks. And I did that. And the team I was working with was super supportive, and it was the best decision I ever made. But that transition, I think, being able to have clients on retainer, build a business that was creating consistent monthly revenue, I built a lot of trust in myself. Having the safety and security of the corporate career while I was doing that just gave me a lot of peace of mind and confidence once I did quit.
Yeah, that's awesome. What kept you going? I mean, did you have a big vision when you were doing the after hours 4 to 9? Like, did you see the direction that the business could go, or were you just pushing through and seeing what happened?
A lot of pushing through and seeing what happened, because at the time I was like saying yes to writing blogs, to designing websites, to figuring out SEO, to doing social media, to doing email marketing. Like, I was saying yes to anything digital marketing. That's what I got a degree in. So I started dabbling with it in college, like designing websites for family, friends, and stuff. But I just wanted the freedom. I wanted the freedom to be able to work when I wanted, where I wanted, with who I wanted during my life. And so I always thought I would be a freelancer. I'd never thought I would scale into an agency, let alone sell an agency. That was not on the radar at all. But I just wanted the freedom. And that's where the story gets kind of funny, because once I quit my 9 to 5, that was stable, consistent, clock in, clock out. And then I traded that for freelance. I thought I was trading it for the freedom lifestyle, right? I was in a business program called the Laptop Lifestyle Boot Camp. All those online business coaches at the time of like early COVID were selling the dream of work for yourself, work anywhere, anytime, no more 9 to 5 corporate structure. And then joke's on you, once you become successful in freelance, you're working 24/7 every weekend, every late night. And then there's no end in sight, and you start hating the business that you've built. And that started happening to me.
So, what'd you do about it?
This is where I call myself an accidental agency owner. So I started hiring contractors at first and getting some help with some things here and there. My very first hire was a virtual assistant, and she helped 10 hours a week. She actually still on my team today.
Oh, I
I
love
know.
that.
So long. She's the best. And then I started hiring contract copywriters to like do the creative work and to get that off my plate. And so I was able to scale more, be able to take on more clients. They would do the creative work. I would be front facing with the client, doing quality control, all the things. And then I hired my first W-2 employee. She was a college intern, and she was on my team for years. And she was on the team of the business that I sold, and she's still working for the new owner.
Cool.
Yeah, and so I can get more into, like, kind of those nuances of the stories, but yeah, long story short, I started hiring, started delegating, started building a team and a structure and a system that could operate without me, and that's what really started giving me the freedom back. And hiring contractors here and there to do some of the work behind the scenes was great. It freed up my time a little bit, but I was still always on the hook with client communications. And at the end of the day, if you want to have an agency, your client communication needs to be on lock and key. Otherwise, you're not delivering the experience that you promised. And so the real game changer was when I finally hired an account manager.
Yeah. So it's like one thing after another that led you to where you are now. So, I mean, I do think it's interesting when people want to start a business, and that takes time, like you said, of putting in the hours on your own before you hired someone else. But
Mhm.
I remember when we were in Spain, I was talking to you about when you knew the right time to hire was, and you said the time when you went from contractors to actual employees was when you realized how much you were paying contractors versus what you could give to an employee. Can you talk a little bit about that shift within the whole business growth?
Yeah. Well, a few things to dig in there. So, when you have contractors that are helping you out, they set their hours. They tell you what they're available for, what they're not available for. So, let's say in one week, I close 3 website copy projects, and I have 3 copywriters that I delegate things to as contractors. If they're busy, they can say no. Right. And so then I'm screwed. I promised a client a timeline and a deliverable, and then I don't have anyone to deliver the work. So then I'm on the hook for it. I don't have time for that. I'm not the best person to do the writing anymore. That's why I hire amazing copywriters to do the work. And so then you're kind of in a dangerous and precarious situation of like, they're a contractor, they get to set their hours, set their availability, they get to say no to you. And so you can kind of get screwed that way. And then also contractors, especially if they're highly skilled, if they're highly in demand, if they've been working with you for a while, they get to oftentimes set their own rates too. And so sometimes those rates are really expensive and that can eat into margin. And when you have and kind of switch your mindset to building a team of W 2 employees, then not only are you getting a set amount of hours a week that you get control over how you're delegating work to them at any given time, but you're also controlling margins a little bit better because you know what their hourly rate's going to be or their salary is going to be. And you get to understand how the quote that you're quoting the client, how that's going to be delegated from a financial standpoint to pay them. But the biggest thing, in my opinion, is the team culture. When you have people on your team that are bought into the bigger vision of the company and are excited to deliver great work to clients, and you have a little bit more of an intimate relationship, whereas contractors, oftentimes it's, I need this done. This is the deadline. This is the scope. Go do it by this date, right? It's a little bit more transactional. But when you have employees, it can be really cool to get the team rallied around a vision and get them excited about supporting a client and building this team culture that's just really collaborative.
Yeah. What's been the hardest part about switching from contractors to actual W-2 employees? Because I know you do like 401k matching. That's
Yeah.
something you do, right? So,
Yeah.
like, how'd you figure out all these things that come along with having employees?
Yeah, I know. I always say you solve one problem and you inadvertently create three more for yourself when you
Yeah.
have a team.
Mhm.
Honestly, all that stuff shouldn't intimidate people. It's so figure outable. You have AI to ask a million questions to, and it gives you a step by step instruction of how to set up a 401k for a team member. You have 401k, you have healthcare stipends. I don't offer healthcare for the team yet, but we do healthcare stipends to help kind of soften the blow. And then we do PTO and sick days. And so those are all things to kind of buffer into your margins as well. The hardest part though was the mindset of being ready for it because a lot of people get intimidated by when you have a W 2 employee. The idea of letting a W 2 employee go if business slows down is really tough to wrestle with. So you really need to be in the mindset of like, your responsibility is to keep the pipeline full to close deals because you are in charge of someone's salary. And that can be really intimidating for some people, which is why having the right mindset around it of like, there's no plan B. My success is inevitable. I'm going to figure this out. And you just have to be ready to kind of put in the work to figure out the solution there. It is a big deal. If you have people that are under you, it's a lot of responsibility, but it can be really exciting and it can really light a fire under your ass too to like get the business and work hard for it.
Oh, totally. I'm
Yeah.
sure. I mean, sometimes I just need some inspiration knowing that there is no plan B. So that's totally a great way to think about it. And now you have a mentorship where you help other agencies kind of set themselves up in this way. When did you start thinking about launching this?
I've thought about it for probably 2 years and I was just scared to launch it.
Was it because you saw so many agencies not growing in the way that you grew and knew that they had that potential? Or was it people asking you questions? How did you know when the right time was?
Yeah, I mean, the version of myself about 3 years ago is the person that I've created this mentorship for. Because about 3 years ago, I was at this inflection point in the business of I'm working 60-hour weeks. I have a couple contractors, I have some helpers on the team doing some things, but at the end of the day, I was responsible for every client message, every client deliverable. All the pressure was on me. I didn't have a proper team structure that was consistent. And I didn't know the way through. I ended up figuring it out and I hired a mentor, which was incredibly helpful. He was the version of me that I wanted to be at in a year from when I hired him. And I just think there's so much value in having a mentor that has solved all the problems that you're currently solving. And so the biggest problems that I help business owners get through is how to create productized services that are repeatable and documentable, and you can create SOPs around how to create the structures and the systems in your business. So when other people join in, they understand how things are done so you can keep quality high. And then also how to make some of those key hires like an account manager or a strategist or a project manager, because that's when the business owner is going to feel the biggest relief is when they're not the one that's in charge of all the high level thinking and delegating to the team members. So that's what we focus on the most in the growth season. And you asked what made me finally ready to do it. So I sold one of my agencies, which we can definitely talk more about. And I think that gave me the confidence of, okay, I really do know what I'm talking about because I built an agency that was sellable and I exited from it. And in order to sell a business, it has to operate without you, right? If it's fully dependent on you, you're really just selling contracts at that point. You're not selling a system for another person to come in and run. And so that was kind of like, okay, I do really know what I'm doing. I did figure this out. I can help other people with this. And I just love giving back to the women that have been in the mentorship. It has filled my cup in ways I did not know was possible to see them make improvements and start getting their time back in their business. So it's just been super fulfilling.
Yeah. Okay. I do want to talk about that too because I went to, this was maybe 2 years ago, Alex and Layla Hermosi's event in Las Vegas. And that was one of the risk factors they talked about in business. The single man risk is what they called it, where if you're like the face of the business, which I'm the face of my business. Did you start off with being the face of your business?
Yeah. When I started my second agency, Oaks Email Studio, I started it because I didn't want to have that single man risk. So I kind of built the brand around the business and positioned myself just as the founder of the business. And there still was a little bit of single man risk because I was still doing all the sales calls
Yeah,
and I was in charge of a lot of the marketing efforts. And I did get a lot of clients from like in-person networking and,
sure.
me having those conversations. But I was able to eliminate some of that single man risk for the buyer because on sales calls with clients, I wasn't pitching how good I was. I was pitching how good the team was. And then as soon as the client signed, they got handed to an account manager that was in charge of that account. And so we were able to remove some of that single man risk for Oaks Email Studio, the one that was sold. And I started that agency with the intention of like, okay, one day I do want to be able to sell this. So I'm going to remove myself from being front facing as much as possible. But of course, that impacts the evaluation of a business. If I wasn't doing the sales calls and I was truly just behind the scenes as the founder, it would have been evaluated and sold for significantly more, but still sellable, still exitable, still
Yeah,
put a big chunk of cash in my pocket. So at the end of the day, I was very, very fortunate that also
totally.
there was a buyer interested in it. A lot of times, if you want to sell a business, it can be hard to find a buyer. And I was just so blessed that he met me in a networking group. He approached me wanting to buy it. I didn't have to put my business up for sale and try to sell
Yeah, when you put things out in the universe, it's crazy how fast they can come back,
it. I
right?
guess so. I felt very, very lucky for sure.
Totally. If you were to start over with Acorn Digital Marketing, would you still have you yourself as the face of that brand?
I think so because it's all I know.
Yeah,
It's all that I could at least give advice on. And it's a really fast way to build trust with people.
totally.
When you're just getting started, especially as a freelancer, you kind of have to sell yourself as like, you can trust me. I'm the expert. I'm who you can trust.
Yeah. You're like, I swear I know what I'm talking about. I
Yeah. And like,
swear.
I swear I'm smart. And then you can build like case studies around your work and things like that. I think for someone who's just getting started in the industry, when I started Acorn, I didn't do email marketing like I do now. Like I didn't know the strategy. I was literally just getting started in the industry. And so I think having a freelance career to like kind of figure that out, get your feet wet, and then scaling into an agency is really safe and scalable. And you can slowly start removing yourself from being front facing like I did at Oaks. But if you have been in the industry, if you know what you're doing, if you have the credibility and the experience, then yeah, start the business without your face being the front of it for sure. I think it just depends on your experience and where you're at in your career.
Yeah. Yeah. I have so much fun creating content for my business that I can't imagine it any other way. But it might also just be like the industry that I'm in. I don't know. But I think that's really such a cool story of how when you started this new agency, it sold from the things that you saw in your first agency that you did differently in the second. Since you were talking about the team and the sales calls, you sold the team with the business.
Correct. Yep. So the
Cool.
team was a part of it. Most of the team's still there. And it's just so cool to see. The new owner has done an awesome job.
Yeah,
And the business is growing in really cool ways to see and to witness.
that is awesome.
Yeah, I feel really fortunate. The buyer is awesome guy. We had a great relationship. I supported for 6 months during the transition, and it went super smooth. And I don't know, just like good vibes all around. Sometimes you hear horror stories of you sell something and then it's a rocky relationship or it doesn't go as smooth or whatever it is. But I just feel really lucky. It was great, a great experience.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So back to the hiring side, you mentioned with W-2 versus contractors, if you sell a bunch of website designs, right, you have to have the contractors ready to go. You said something like that you're no longer the best person to write their copy. Tell me that because that's why you started your business, right? To
Yeah.
to do it.
Yeah, and I love it. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
I love writing. It's so much fun. And sometimes here and there, I'll take a project and do it myself just to
Yeah.
like, be like, I still got it. It's so fun. But at the end of the day, when you're the business owner and you're the founder, you got to wear the hat of head of sales, head of finance, head of accounting, head of marketing, head of team and HR. And you're now responsible for making sure that your team feels supported. And you're still responsible that if shit hits the fan, you're there to problem solve. So if I'm wearing all of those hats, I no longer have the creative capacity to be the best writer for our clients. There's just no way. No one can balance all of that at once. And so bringing on team members who are incredibly talented in that skill. And I can just say, just focus on this skill. Do this really well. I'll wear all of the other hats for you. I'll pay you well to do it. Go crush it.
Yeah.
And then I'm there to review and be a thought partner with them and help brainstorm and bounce ideas off of if they need it. But when you start scaling your business and you start having to really wear all those other hats, especially the sales hat, because if you have a team, you got to be selling to keep them busy. You can't keep wearing the creative delivery hat, whether that's editing the podcasts or writing the website copy or creating the social media posts.
Yeah.
It's just impossible.
Yeah, it is. How have your goals changed for yourself in your business?
Yeah, my goals are honestly centered back to the whole reason I started this in the first place, time freedom and location freedom. So now I have the goal to not work more than 20, 25 hours a week. And it's been pretty like that for a while. I mean, sometimes you have a team member out, you got to cover for them, you're working more, or there's turnover, or a client drops, so you got to go market a ton to get a new client, whatever it is. Sometimes it goes up, but my general goal is to work about 20 hours a week and just have more time freedom and focus on the areas of business that I have the most fun in.
Yeah, which is what, marketing and sales?
Marketing and sales and supporting the team. I
Yeah,
love having the conversations with the team, giving them feedback, working collaboratively with them. That's
totally.
one of my favorite things.
Totally. Okay, so when you were doing everything and having contractors, what did your marketing look like then versus now? Because in my business, right, I just hired someone new and very excited. I have a bunch of more time now.
Yay.
But I'm like, now I have to like get into the routine of becoming a content creator. Shoot me, like, are you serious? So like, well, I think it's fun. It's like a new routine that you have to get into. So how'd that change for you?
I think it just allowed to have more consistency when it's needed. And also, it allowed me to get some help with the content too. Our assistant, I'm able to give her content ideas and kind of give her hook ideas and say, repurpose this from the newsletter. And then she's able to help create educational carousels for Instagram. And so that helps take some of the lift off. But the biggest difference that you're probably going to feel is getting out of the feast and famine cycle, which I talk a lot about in the mentorship, which is if you are the one doing most of the work, then you're going to get in a constant cycle of, okay, I'm going to market a bunch, get clients. When you have clients, you're going to be so busy doing great work for those clients, you're going to stop marketing entirely because you're only one person and you can't do it all. Then, if those client contracts end or they terminate or the projects are just over, then you don't have as many clients as you need to make the money you want. Then you're going to get back into marketing. You're going to market a ton. You're going to get the clients, focus on the clients and stop marketing. And then the clients are going to end and you're just going to repeat the cycle of feast and famine marketing. But now that you have a team to help deliver some of that work, you're going to be able to focus more on marketing consistently. So you're not constantly in that feast and famine mode because when you have a team, it's a lot more dangerous to get into that feast and famine mode cycle.
Totally. Okay, what did that look like for you? Was it hard? Or were you just excited to get out of that? Were you just like, thank God?
I feel like I was excited because when I wasn't wearing all of the hats and focused on client delivery, I was able to be a lot more creative myself, have more fun creating content because you'll have more time in the day. And then your creative juices start flowing when you're not totally burnt out working 12 hours a day and over weekends. It'll actually be fun to think of content ideas and film
Yeah.
reels and edit them. It becomes fun again.
Oh, okay, I love that, that's so inspiring. I meet people sometimes, and this might just be my own limiting beliefs too, prefacing it with that. I meet people sometimes who have businesses that they're already outsourcing stuff way before I think that they should be outsourcing. Me think someone should do something is ridiculous, right? Like they could do whatever they want. But I wanted to hit a certain point before I could hire someone, which maybe I hired too late, right? When is the right time and what is too soon?
I have a philosophy around this, and this is why I offer mentorship and not coaching. Mentorship is learn from what I've done. I will tell you what's worked for me. You decide if you want to do it or not. I'm not here to coach you through things. I'm here to tell you this is what I did, this is what worked, copy it or not. Same thing with the whole mentorship. I show all of my systems, all of my back end. I give recommendations on what I've seen work, copy it or not, right? So my hiring philosophy is hire from a place of overflow, because that's where you'll have a lot more safety and security and more confidence making those hires. Because let's just say you're working 10-hour days consistently and you only want to be working 6-hour days consistently. Then you know that you consistently have 4 hours of work a day for an employee to do or a contractor to do. So then you're hiring from a place of overflow because you consistently have overflowed your calendar. You've consistently overflowed your workload with clients. You know, you consistently have some things that you can delegate. Then you know that you have the money and you understand your margins. That's another big thing, is you need to understand your finances and your margins and make sure that you have buffer room to pay someone to do that work. And if we want to go over like some numbers, we can go over those numbers together from like best practices of an agency. So that's what I do, is hire from overflow. Because if you hire before that, then it could be that you're hiring because you had a temporary inflection point, right? Maybe you got 4 clients and you're used to having 2. Does that mean you're going to get 4 clients consistently month over month? Maybe not. And so then you're delegating and you're hiring off of an inflection point, not over consistent overflow. And I am also a firm believer that you should not pay someone else to do the work until you are paying yourself the amount that you want to be making while you can pay someone else. So if you want to pay yourself $5,000 a month, let's just say, and if you hire an employee, it means you can only pay yourself 3. It's not time to hire an employee. It's time to hire an employee when you're consistently making 7 and you have that $2,000 to give to an employee while you're still making 5. Again, a place from overflow, not from a one-time spike in business.
Yeah, because I see people hiring virtual assistants or just anyone, right? They don't have enough work for them. One of my clients is dealing with this right now where she hired a virtual assistant and I'm like, what are they going to do for you? And she's like, I don't know, but it's 40 hours a week. I'm like, oh my God. So I can't say anything as just a business owner that they're just telling, right?
Yeah.
But in my head, I'm like, I would never, right? And
I
so,
would never either. I mean, you can think of it from a place of opportunity cost.
yeah,
So if you have 20 hours a week to give to an assistant, and those 20 hours a week could be better spent spending time with your kids, and you're
sure.
willing to dip into your margin and dip into your wallet to get that work off your plate, that's your prerogative.
Totally.
Is that going to be the best financial decision for the business? No. But at the end of the day, it's their prerogative. I love the idea of hiring from overflow. At the end of the day, if we can't make a shit ton of money doing what we're doing, why deal with it? I was just talking to a gal I mentor yesterday about the same topic because she's like, why am I dealing with having this whole team delegating and dealing with project management systems and hard conversations with team if I could just take half the amount of clients and do it all myself?
Yeah.
And I'm like, you're exactly right. If you cannot make more money with this team, why do it? So we're going through margin conversations and should you increase prices? Are you paying team too much? How do we figure out the balance? How do we make sure you're paying yourself enough? Because I mean, running a business is hard, running a team is hard, running an agency is hard. So if you're not making the amount of money you want to be making, why do it in the first place?
Yeah, totally. It's a lot
Yeah.
of work, right?
Yeah.
And like you said in the beginning, sometimes corporate have great benefits that people don't think about until it's gone, right? So,
True that. True that. There's
yeah,
there's pros and cons of it all. I love the rat race of entrepreneurship. I'm addicted to it for better or worse. I really enjoy it.
yeah.
But there's pros and cons of it all. There's definitely trade-offs.
Yeah, there really are. Okay, this has been so interesting. Before we wrap up and get into your action steps for the week, is there anything else that you want to mention?
I think just the biggest thing that a lot of business owners aren't talking enough about are understanding their numbers. And that's something I spend a lot of time with girls in the mentorship on is building the spreadsheets. They don't have to be pretty, they don't have to be fancy, but like having a place that you can understand what your costs are, what you're making, what your monthly recurring expenses are, how you can decrease them while increasing revenue, understanding your profit margins and your cost of goods sold, what percentage is going to your team and yourself. Those are all numbers that we should have a keen eye on, especially as you scale. Because if you don't, you can very quickly either one, go into the red or stop paying yourself what you want to be making, or pay your team members more because they asked for it, even though you don't have the money to pay them. It's a slippery slope if you don't keep a close eye on your numbers once you start scaling to those 20, 30, 40, 50K months.
Absolutely. Yeah, I do like how you have the mixture of the strategy and also the tactical numbers, looking at both of those things before making any decisions. I think, yes, instead of deciding off of just the vibes, you decide on like the actual numbers and what actually makes sense. So I
Yeah.
do appreciate that about you and your approach and what you're teaching other people. I think more people need to learn about things like that. So, Molly, this has been so great. I would love if you could wrap up this episode by sharing 3 action steps for the audience to take based on the conversation. As you know, there's lots of emails you could read, there's lots of ebooks, there's lots of podcasts, but nothing happens unless we take action. So, what's the action you want us to take?
Okay, first thing, if you don't have a spreadsheet outlining your monthly income and monthly expenses, you need it. Even if you have QuickBooks, even if you have QuickBooks, because QuickBooks is going to help you get a high level overview. But I want you to get granular with what every client's paying you, what you're paying every team member every month, what your outside expenses are. Have a place that you can look at. The other thing is if you are in a position to start hiring, whether it's a contractor or a W 2 employee, we just created a starter pack guide with templates and AI prompts that you can download so you can create job postings that are clear. So it's job postings, it's offer letters, and it's advice on how to get started with your first key hires. So that I can share the link and you can put it in the show notes.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that'll be super helpful if you're like, I think I do want to hire someone. And what are the first few steps? It'll take you through all the first few steps of your first key hire. And then the third one is I want you to get really clear on your goals. So whether that's working 20 hours a week or making 10K months yourself and putting that much in your pocket every month, if you don't understand what your end goal is, you're probably wasting your time doing all this other stuff, right? Because if your end goal is to work 40 hours a week and make $5,000 a month, probably better off at corporate, right? If your end goal is to work 20 hours a week and make 20K a month, let's get to work. Build a marketing plan around it. You need a team around it. You need systems, you need processes. So I would just say get really clear on kind of what the end goal is at least a year from now so you can start making decisions to get to where you want to be.
Yeah, I love that. So you mentioned using AI, right? And I know that you talk about it a lot on social media and just in your coaching and all of this. In what ways has AI made scaling easier?
I mean, before AI became really popular, I already had the idea of everything is figure outable. If you are determined, you can figure anything out. And also, the work that we're doing, podcasting, email marketing, agency ownership, it's not rocket science. We're not sending people to the moon over here,
Right,
right?
right.
Like it truly is all figure outable if you
Yes.
want to figure it out. And AI has just made it so much faster to figure it out. Like before, if you would have had to learn what payroll software to use, which one's the most affordable, how to set up 401k matching, how to set up sick days in your state and making sure that you're following the laws. You would have had to go to like 10 different websites, cross reference, make sure it's accurate, do a lot of research. It'd take a bunch of time. But now you can just go into AI and be like, I'm a Washington State business. I'm hiring my first W 2 employee. What job posters do I need to have available digitally? Do I need to mail them to the team? How do I set up sick days in Washington? How does that work? What website do I use? How do I set this up in Gusto, which is the payroll software that we use? And it just literally breaks it down step by step. And if you get stuck, you take a screenshot of your screen and say, I'm on this
Help.
page. What do I do now? It just makes everything so much
Yeah.
more figure outable and so much faster to figure out. So when business owners, freelancers, or early stage agency owners, they're like, I just feel so overwhelmed. I don't know what to do next. I'm like, you literally have all the information at the world at your fingertips. Do you really not know how to figure it out? Or are you just afraid to take action? And most of the time it's just being afraid to take action because all the information is available to us.
Yeah, that's the truth, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. True that.
Well, okay, Molly, where can people come and connect with you?
Okay, so if you want to learn more about the mentorship, you can go to my Instagram. It's molly.nutt, N-U-T-T. It's my last name. And
Love it.
then, so that's where I talk about the mentorship called the growth season and give advice on delegating and hiring and outsourcing and finances and back end systems and processes, how to get more time back in your day as an agency owner. Or if you're a freelancer and you want to start the agency, there'll also be really great tips for you there. And if you want to learn more about my agency, or an email marketing and copywriting studio, working a lot with coaches and course creators and content creators on email funnels and sales pages. All of that is on my business Instagram, Acorn Digital Strategy NW. And then if you want to download free resources, go to my website, acorndigitalstrategynw.com.
Okay, I love it. All of those will be in the show notes. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thanks, Haley. This is awesome.
So fun. Thank you for listening to the Employee to Boss podcast. If you made it to the end of this episode, I hope that you implement the actionable steps from this week's experts so you can get started with your business today. Please rate, review, and subscribe to the Employee to Boss podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you listen to your podcasts. It helps more than you could ever imagine. Remember, a little progress each day leads to big results. We come out with a new episode every Tuesday. To access our show notes, transcripts, and courses, please check out espressopodcastproduction.com.